Grace and peace to you in the mighty name of Jesus.
And welcome to 2026, church. This is our year to step up.
This is the year for the people of God to change the game. Family, God is calling us to flip the script and shift the atmosphere.
God wants worship that fires us up and prophetic leadership that ignites us to go out and make disciples.
You want to learn how? Meet us in Dallas, Texas, April 29th to May 2nd for Shifting the Atmosphere, a place where pastors, music and worship leaders, laity, and those who practice liturgical movement all come together to build sacred space.
Where worship ignites change and leadership fuels revival.
This event, which is open to congregational leaders from any and everywhere in the country, is being presented by the Junius B. Dotson Institute for Worship and Music in the Black Church and beyond.
Strengthening the Black Church for the 21st Century is a national plan of the United Methodist Church. SBC 21's purpose is to equip pastors and laity to revitalize congregations and transform communities.
This event will include seminars, collab labs, and networking sessions. Will cover everything from bridging the gaps between generations, cultures, and communities. This includes coaching prophetic preaching and strengthening congregational song.
So bring a team of at least 5 leaders from your local church, your district, university, or even your seminary and get a discount on registration. If you register before February 15th, you'll get an additional discount, and CEUs will be offered for clergy.
So our goal is to what? Shake things up in 2026. Here's how you can help us. We want you to register online for Shifting the Atmosphere at garrett.edu/Dotson or at sbc21.org. We really want to see you this spring in Dallas, Texas at Hamilton Park United Methodist Church.
So come and dream, and let's learn together. And we will shift the atmosphere through transformative worship and prophetic leadership so that we will make this world a better place. Looking forward to seeing you there. God bless.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you all doing? It is so good to see everyone on and to see that you are having your lunch and you've joined another installment of Lunch and Learn. My name is Toska Medlock Lee, and I am super, super excited that you have joined us today for our March Lunch and Learn. As you know, we do these Lunch and Learns every third Thursday of the month. It's our opportunity here at Strengthening the Black Church for the 21st Century to connect you with experts that can help you and your team at the local church, whether it's some professional development that you need, personal development, with information that will help not only move your local ministry, move your organization, but help move you forward. And so we try to create and curate learning opportunities and topics around lunch, something that can be nice and light. We want to see you in the place. This is no ordinary conference. It's not a place where you're just going to come and be lectured to. Dr. Cynthia and Mike in the video talked about our collab labs. These are some specialty labs that we have curated and connected that will connect you to be able to work with experts that's doing the work in the area of ministry, leadership development, technology, all the things that you need to do. And you're going to be getting best practices and walking away with a plan on how to shift and do things differently with your church and organization. So I want to encourage you to log on to sbc21.org and get the information and meet me in Dallas. As a matter of fact, I'm in Dallas right now. So meet me in the hometown place. Looking forward to seeing you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have an amazing, amazing Lunch and Learn planned for you today. I was just talking with our presenter offline before you all got on board and came into the room. And she is an avid traveler. We're going to be hearing from Dr. Regina more today. She's an avid traveler. She's traveled over 20 countries, preaching and teaching and serving on the mission field. Dr. Moore has served in the local church. She has served as a chaplain at Duke University Chapel, in the United Methodist Church's Global Ministries headquarters in New York City. Currently, she's pastoring Aldersgate United Methodist Church in Sumter, South Carolina, and leads the South Carolina Christian Action Council. So I'm excited. She is an active member of the alumni chapter. Let me hear for you, Deltas. Okay, y'all on here. I know. I don't know if y'all could do y'all's, little hoop. We can't hear you, but she is an active Delta, for Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and past president of the Rotary Club. So she's very, very involved. She's a published author. She's a writer, and she is also a graduate of Howard University. Okay, HU, what? All right. So she's earned her bachelor's degree. She went to Duke Divinity School for her doctorate degree and her master's degree, and she lives by two important words, and they are holy words. And she says, "To much is given, much is required." And today, ladies and gentlemen, she is going to be giving us some solid information on how to take our ministry to the next level as it relates to discipleship and all the things that we aim to do with our work in the United Methodist Church. So, without further ado, because we like to honor your time, how are you, Dr. Moore?
I am very well. Hope you are well and hope everyone is well.
Doing
Uh,
really, really good. So, what can we expect from you today? I mean, we're gonna sit down. We got our Girl Scout cookies, and we have our pistachios, and we got hummus. We have everything in the chat. People are they're eating, and what can we expect to learn today?
Today we will learn practical application of how to engage your community, how to glean resources, and how to develop those resources in a way that brings direct impact to your community and
We're
beyond.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to that. And I just want everybody to engage in the chat. Make sure that you're dropping your questions in the chat. We're going to be monitoring the chat to get your questions answered. And so at this point, we're going to take it away with Dr. Moore. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, SBC 21, for the opportunity to lead and serve today. First and foremost, the slides will be made available to you. Today, we will take a deep dive into strengthening and developing resources, whether they are conference resources, community resources, church assets, community assets, or human assets. Let me also say that what we will discuss today is likely nothing new to you. The goal is to remind you of the ways God plants us for purpose and guides us toward transformation. There will be no earth-shattering information today. However, my prayer is that you will love boldly and take one or two thoughts from the presentation and apply them in your ministry setting. The goal is for you to be inspired, so feel free to take notes. My doctoral thesis was on philanthropic leadership through the lens of 4th century Bishop of Milan, Ambrose. One of the strong tenets of Ambrose's teaching was the fine art of using church resources to care for the least of these. Part of this presentation is grounded in Ambrose's theological belief of charity and community. This presentation is also solely based on my current part-time appointment at Aldersgate United Methodist Church in Sumter, South Carolina. I have been appointed to Aldersgate to lead a remissioning process at the church. The church has 20,000 square feet of underutilized space, a beautiful sanctuary that seats about 650 people, and an average worship attendance right now of between 25 and 30 on any given Sunday. Although this is a cross-racial appointment or cross-cultural appointment, many things are applicable to the Black church. We are strengthening and developing resources daily at Aldersgate. Recently, we have engaged in conversation with city nonprofits, a statewide nonprofit with a love and mission for children, and the South Carolina Department of Social Services. to explore what it would look like for the church to host a family resource center, a one-stop shop for the most vulnerable families in Sumter County. I've been there for 8 months as their coaching pastor, and let me tell you, God is moving. So let's get started by grounding ourselves in Scripture. Psalm 1 through 3. Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers, but whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night. That person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. Now, ask yourself this question. As God nurtures me as a tree planted by streams of water, how am I strengthening and stewarding the resources within and around me so that my growth bears fruit, not just for myself, but for the flourishing of my community? Meet Mike Gibson. Mike is a topiarian. Topiary is the whole horticultural art of pruning, clipping, and training evergreen shrubs and trees into clearly defined, unnatural, geometric, or whimsical shapes. Topetry is to landscaping what finger waves were to LL Cool J's Around the Way girls in the 1990s. Topiary lives beyond a well-manicured lawn. Topiary is art that can easily be found in Baldwin Hills, California, where seniors are stretching for their Tai Chi class. Just think about the Biltmore House estate in Asheville, the state homes with sculpture shrubs in Greenwich, Connecticut, the Gilded Age mansions as you cruise the Newport, Rhode Island Jazz Festival, or the Long Island Gold Coast, inspired by aristocratic landscapes. These are the landscaping sandboxes to which Mike Gibson plays. If Mike looks familiar, you might have seen him with Martha Stewart or on the Discovery Channel. Mike, now not new to the topiary game, he is true to the game, having discovered landscaping at a very young age before meeting this man. Meet Mr. Pearl Fryer. Mr. Pearl, Pearl, as he is known, is the OG of topiary. World-renowned, now at least 82 years young, Mr. Pearl has been curating topiary for decades. Mr. Pearl resides in Bishopville, South Carolina, just 18 miles from where I'm sitting in my Camden home office. Mr. Pearl has been featured in home and garden magazines, has presented in horticultural matters with the University of South Carolina, and is beloved by so many. Bishopville, where he resides, has just under 3,000 residents, and Mr. Pearl has no former horticultural training. He began shaping discarded nursery plants and others threw away. Through experimentation, discipline, and creativity, he developed a distinctive sculptural style. His work challenged the idea that topiary belongs only to elite gardens. Mike Gibson is the mentee. Pearl Fryer is the mentor. Mike says, Pearl doesn't just trim trees, he transforms them. And in doing so, he transforms people. So how about during this lunch and learn session, we extract some of the lessons of topiary and apply them to the ecclesial order of strengthening and developing resources. This does not require that you have a green thumb or that you take a local gardening class at your local community college. What it does require is an open mind, an open heart, and a willingness to serve. There is common language used in topiary. Some of the words are action words. developing and strengthening resources require a spirit of growth and a determination toward excellence. I say this not to apply pressure, but to set expectations. Topiary requires ongoing labor, sometimes in the ground, sometimes on a ladder, sometimes by the water well. And at any given time, the following actions could be at play: prune, clip, shape, cultivate, trim, sculpt, maintain. All 7 of these actions are required for both topiary and strengthening resources in the Black church. Let me show you. First order of business, prune your calendar. In order to strengthen and develop resources, you must first strengthen and develop relationships. Friends, this takes time. This takes energy. Building relationships takes effort. This doesn't mean that you do less work. It simply means that you do more work that is centered around community and resources. Go ahead and do your sermon titles and rough drafts for the next 6 months to get that off your calendar. Plan your Bible studies for the year. Go ahead and look at your summer schedule. Make sure you have, first and foremost, time with God in prayer and supplication. Then use the spiritual practices and disciplines that serve you best. Then plan for family and friends. Third, block off time for conversations, coffee chats, community meetings, and intentional rest. When items like coming up with a sermon title every week or planning for a Bible study every 30 days are removed from your calendar, it makes space for meetings that create relationships in around the community. Think about school district board meetings. Consider attending city council meetings and learning about community block grants. Think about joining the Chamber of Commerce so that you have access to community leaders and networking opportunities. Yes, these are small investments that yield great results. Get there early. Stay as long as you can. Take your business card with you. Prune your calendar so that you make time for community engagement. Hospital visits, stay on the calendar. District meetings, stay on the calendar. Church meetings, stay on the calendar. Date night stays on the calendar. Which of these calendared events can be done virtually, even for a short-term period? Prune your calendar to preserve your energy. You will need it in order to strengthen and develop relationships. Next, clip your ego. Clip your ego and give people something to talk about. Take calculated risks. Topiary requires clipping. Mr. Pearl Fryer doesn't just clip at trees, he makes calculated moves. Yes, you have a seminary degree. Yes, you are ordained and called and anointed and appointed. Yes, you are the best lay leader in the denomination. And for most people in the community, your credentials, as important as they are, matter very little to the one who is trying to simply pay their rent or keep baby formula in the kitchen cabinet. People want to see that you are engaged. At Aldersgate United Methodist Church, where I currently serve, we have a pumpkin patch ministry. Thousands of pumpkins are delivered to the church from the Navajo Reservation in New Mexico. We sell the pumpkins and keep 40% of the sales as profit. Our pumpkin patch usually is a 40-day journey. On day 4, 5, or 6, I noticed that sales were slow. Part of that had to do with the rain, and part of it had to do with members of the community who were looking to sabotage our work after a disaffiliation process. So one day, I went on Amazon and purchased a pumpkin suit. I got in the suit, stood on the curb at the church, probably 30 of those 40 days, started playing music and dancing to the beat for hours. People began taking videos and photos and posting them on the Community Watch page on Facebook. Last year, We sold over $34,000 of pumpkins with profits of more than $19,000. These numbers were higher than the numbers from the previous 2 years. Many stated they had to stop by the pumpkin patch and meet the lady in the pumpkin suit, not knowing it was I, the pastor. I took a risk, friends. I checked my ego at the door. I gave people something to talk about. Shape your storytelling. Everybody has a story to tell. After all, our story is part of God's story. And in telling your story, we share a little part of ourselves. So I invite you to share your story in your community. Your call story, your story that brought you to your current appointment, the church's story. Do you know your church's story? How does the history of the church feed into the vision of what is possible for the future? Dean Greg Jones calls this traditioned innovation. Some of us know it as Sankofa. We look back in order to find direction for how to move forward. Aldersgate United Methodist Church started 80 years ago this year at Alice Drive Elementary School, just 2 blocks from the church's current location. And throughout the church's history, it has always engaged children through Vacation Bible School, Mother's Morning Out, Boy Scouts, pumpkin patch storytelling, and the like. In Sumter, I've discovered that everyone I meet has an Aldersgate story. Shape your lips to tell your story. Keep telling the story until you get tired of hearing yourself tell it. In Sumter, wherever I go, I introduce myself. I tell people that I am the coaching pastor at Aldersgate United Methodist Church, the Pumpkin Patch Church, where we currently have 10,000 square feet of underutilized space. I share this story in Rotary Club meetings. I share this story with colleagues in the Hartsville District. I share this story with homeschool associations, Black fraternities and sororities, city council representatives, and about 20 nonprofits in the county. I'm leaning into our assets and strengths. We do not have a church endowment. The church does not have high worship attendance yet. On the other side of the pandemic and the separation process of the United Methodist Church. But what we do have is plenty of space to serve our community. Bishop Ambrose of Milan said, "The just human regards what belongs to all as their own and their own as common property." You see, Ambrose frames resources as something to be stewarded for common good, not merely protected for private use. This points towards sharing assets, opening space, and using what God has given for the flourishing of others. This is also, friends, the Wesleyan way. Shape your storytelling. Write it down, practice it, tell it wherever you go. Cultivate community relationships. It is vitally important that in order to be the church, to love boldly, to serve joyfully, to lead courageously, we must know our community and our community must know us. Community mapping, engaging in grassroots efforts to grow a food pantry, ecumenical ministries that bring us together. Perhaps some of you may remember the story that Kevis Harding tells in his book, Can These Bones Live?, of walking his neighborhood in Wichita, Kansas, just down the street from the church. He introduces himself as to his neighbor and tells them that he pastors the church. The neighbor asks, "Well, where is the church?" And Kevis points just down the road, a few houses down. We must be intentional about knowing our neighbors and waving at our neighbors. On May 2nd, Monday, Thursday, our church is hosting a prayer and testimony service to end the death penalty in South Carolina. We think it is appropriate to follow the social principles of the United Methodist Church and invite those who used to be on death row, victims' families, and friends who advocate against the death penalty in South Carolina. You see, currently, firing squads are utilized as one method of execution. This worship service is a partnership with South Carolinians for Alternatives to the Death Penalty. We will not have to pay anyone. We are offering a worship service that no one else is offering in the community, and we are providing a worship service that aligns with our beliefs and values as United Methodists. In this red county, there is no other faith community advocating against the death penalty so publicly. I ask you, what matter can your church address that no one else is addressing, and that brings partners together to cultivate community relationships? Our Blessing Box does this. Our backpack ministry to Willow Drive Elementary School accomplishes this, where we deliver 33 bags of food to 33 students for 38 weeks. Some of these funds come from the proceeds from the Pumpkin Patch Ministry. So I implore you to keep showing up in your community. Hang out at Starbucks. Attend a local art event. These small steps will help others get to know you as a person and your passion for ministry. Sculpt community-based ministries. This is different from cultivating community relationships. I inherited a partnership with the YMCA in town to offer soccer lessons to 3 to 8-year-olds on our campus. We supplied the soccer goals. The YMCA purchases the soccer balls. Of course, we signed an MOU and confirmed proof of insurance. This year, the church will be more engaged in soccer training, whereas before, the church simply let the YMCA use the space. This year, the church will set up a concession stand and provide free snacks, and then offer premium snacks for sale. The goal? To keep the children hydrated, of course. The other goal is to engage with the parents and the children and invite them to our Vacation Bible Camp in July. Sculpting community-based ministries is discovering the needs in the community and meeting people just where they are. We will likely make a profit from the concession stand sales. However, we also hope to get to know our neighbors by name and engage them in community building. As Mr. Pearl Fryer says, I don't do it for money. I do it to make people happy. This mentality will serve you well. Trim the negativity. Some people may not understand the tactic of being more engaged in the community. They may ask, why is she going to Rotary Club meetings? Why is he going to the NAACP gala next month? Why is she praying at the city council meeting again? Why isn't the pastor in the office? We do our work. We do not neglect the role of pastoral ministry. We are actually expanding the role of pastoral ministry. At the same time, many people will not see the big picture. They will criticize, they will question, they will try to justify your work in dollars and cents. Trim the negativity and communicate. Trim the negativity and incorporate community engagement into the worship service, into the prayers of the people. Again, this will cost money and time and energy and effort. Be consistent. And just like the tree planted by the water in Psalm 1, stay the course. Maintain connectional relationships. Usually with this kind of webinar, I would spend a bulk of the time talking about current grants and funding resources that can be found through the United Methodist Church and community partners. But friends, things have changed. However, with shrinking funding sources through grants, I think it is imperative to look locally for resources that point to partnerships and community building. I encourage you to check your conference emails and the conference website to discover what funding possibilities are available. Think about your community partners and district colleagues when considering these grants. In what ways can your church partnership submit a grant that benefits the community? Grant writing, like topiary, is ongoing work. Don't get discouraged if you don't receive a grant the first time around. You have every right to connect with the agency and ask, how can we improve our grant proposal for the next round? Maintain connectional relationships with your district superintendent, with the connectional ministries office or its equivalent. Show up for district meetings. Make your voice known. In order to strengthen and develop resources, we must strengthen and develop relationships. Mike Gibson and Pearl Fryer are great examples of what it means to work together and build community. As I look at Mike and Mr. Pearl's work, it gives me an image of the tree in Psalm 1. I imagine it now as a topiary tree in all of its beauty and strength, growing by the water. This tree has seen a lot and has endured a lot. In Psalm 1, the Psalm 1 tree also reminds me of a powerful quote from James Cone in his book, The Cross and the Lynching Tree. He writes, until we see the cross and the lynching tree together, until we can identify Christ with a re-crucified black body hanging from a lynching tree, there can be no genuine understanding of Christian identity in America. Why this resonates with community development? This quote presses us beyond comfort into deep identification and solidarity. Community transformation requires seeing Christ in those who are suffering today. It challenges churches and leaders to move from charity to justice and shared humanity. It insists that an authentic Christian community is built when we refuse to separate faith from lived reality. In community development terms, Cone is saying, you cannot build what you refuse to see fully. We are almost at the close of our Lunch and Learn. I want to leave you with a homework assignment. I encourage you to connect with Mr. Pearl Fryer via phone or snail mail. You will see his address here on the screen. This is an effort to practice connecting in community. A handwritten note can go a very long way. A prayer of hope brings joy. If South Carolina is too far for you, connect with an icon in your community, if for no other reason, to tell them thank you. And perhaps you want to connect with Mike Gibson. He's on the gram at Gibby_Sis. This is one small way to practice supporting one another. Strengthening and developing resources does not have to be competitive. It should be collaborative. This is just one example of how shaping our storytelling can lead to open doors and windows. In summary, strengthening and developing resources requires strengthening and developing relationships. Prune the calendar, clip your ego, shape your storytelling, cultivate community relationships, sculpt community-based ministries, trim the negativity, and maintain connectional relationships. As we wrap up, I also want to offer you these resources written by dear friends and colleagues that are proven to build relationships and grow the church. First, The Power of Real by Joe Daniels. The Power of Real calls individuals and faith communities to embrace authenticity by confronting brokenness, pain, and pretense rather than hiding behind perfection. Dr. Daniels argues that true transformation happens when people show up honestly before God and one another, creating space for healing, growth, and deep connection. Ultimately, the book invites leaders and communities like you to build ministries rooted in vulnerability, truth, and real relationships that lead to lasting impact. Second, Fishing Differently with Dr. Sidney Williams. Fishing Differently challenges the church to rethink traditional approaches to evangelism by meeting people where they are rather than expecting them to come to us. Dr. Williams emphasizes building authentic relationships, engaging the community, and using innovative, contextually relevant methods to share the gospel. Ultimately, the book calls leaders to adopt a missional mindset that prioritizes connection, creativity, and transformation over routine and familiarity. Finally, Remissioning Church by Josh Hayden. Remissioning Church invites congregations to move beyond maintaining old models of ministry and instead rediscover their purpose on in God's mission for today's world. Josh emphasizes honest assessment, courageous leadership, and community engagement as essential steps in reimagining the church's future. Ultimately, the book calls churches to embrace change, align their resources with mission, and become vibrant, outward focused communities of transformation. Highly recommend. You might have noticed that all of my resources and examples include male images up to now. This is not intentional. We cannot discuss strength, development, and being resourceful without the presence of Black women. Here are three I lift to you today. Bishop Tracy S. Malone, who leads the Council of Bishops with such grace and power. Mary McLeod Bethune, a South Carolinian, an aspiring Presbyterian missionary who found her home in Methodism. And Dr. Cynthia L. Hale. I have been listening to Dr. Hale preach since I was 12 years old. I saw her a couple of weeks ago at the Duke Divinity School Board of Visitors meeting. I mustered the courage to thank her for preaching to me for more than 40 years. We both had tears in our eyes. And you know what she said to me? She said, "If you ever want to talk, give me a call." Friends, take a risk and introduce yourself. Call an old friend and catch up. Not to ask for something every time. Call to say thank you. Write to say I'm praying for you. Text to say I'm thinking about you and our last conversation because it blessed me. We live in such an isolated world and we need to stay connected. Finally, I want to invite you to join me and about 200 clergy and laity in North Myrtle Beach for a week of learning, leading, and continuing the conversation. The Carolina Black Clergy Leadership Retreat has renamed itself as the Spirit Shore Retreat for both laity and clergy. This is a time to relax, relate, recover, and renew in spirit. CEU credits are offered. We have dynamic worship, passionate community, and powerful presentations. Make plans to join us May 18 through 22 in North Myrtle Beach. Registration will be up and ready to go next week. Join us and learn about the many resources available. And with that, I thank you for your time, and I'm available to answer a few questions.
One of the things that I really like about, where you went with this presentation and this topic is the fact that, years ago we did a campaign with United Methodist Church that said church can happen anywhere. And your presentation just reminds me and further cements that church can happen anywhere. And the awesomeness of how you are able to blend and connect the community, importance of community, and discipleship. Okay. And so one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, when you are in these different settings, at the city council meeting or at the Rotary Club meeting, what's your mindset as it relates to discipleship? Are you focused on, okay, how can I get them to my church on Sunday mornings? Or are you focused on building a relationship?
I am more focused on building a relationship than I am on getting them there Sunday morning. When my sorors utilized the space a couple of weeks ago and I introduced myself, I was careful in my words in saying, if you are looking for a church home, Aldersgate is open. And if you're looking for a home away from home, a church home away from home, Aldersgate is open. We are in remissioning ourselves. We are very much still trying to understand who we are. We took in 3 members last year, one from Ghana, and the landscape of the church is shifting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to us to understand that discipleship exactly can happen anywhere. And some of it, to be quite honest, is to repair the reputation of the church in the community.
Yeah. One of the things that is really critical, and these are ministries of any sign, and I see Pastor Chris Pipkin and so many of you on this Zoom meeting, and so many others that could probably speak to some of their best practices as it relates to how you are cultivating community in quote unquote church happening anywhere. Because it's important for leaders to, and here's the question: how important is it for leaders to shift how they think about vital ministry versus it just looking like, butts and seats, so to speak?
Right, right. It's crucially important. I'll give you 2 examples. One, we relaunched our men's ministry this year, and in doing so, I brought in a nice catered Southern meal, and I've been intentional to bring in outside speakers.
Mm-hmm.
Before, the men would meet around the table with a cup of coffee and
Mm-hmm.
talk shop. But like last month, we brought in someone from the fire department to talk about fire safety in the home. So it was inspirational and informational.
Mm-hmm.
That's important. So when I go to these meetings in the community, I'm looking for business cards where I can bring folks in who can come and talk to the men's group about life.
Mm-hmm.
Some things that men in particular, some things that I cannot do. The other thing that we do is there's a retirement home in the community, and I just started hanging around. And
Mm-hmm.
eventually they found out that I was a pastor at Aldersgate, and the activity director asked me, "Would you be willing to come and give us a message on Wednesdays as our worship time?" And I said, "Absolutely."
Mm-hmm.
I could only do that because I pruned my calendar.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I put it on and then when I preached, she said, "Oh, can you come back next month?" Now, my members who are at Covenant Place don't show up because they're just not able to get there because of mobility issues. But I'm getting to meet some other folks in that community. And more
Yeah,
importantly, I'm getting to meet the staff.
yeah. Absolutely. And people in the chat are saying that, hey, this has made me feel that I am on the right track. And so what I want to say to those of you that's on this Lunch and Learn, drop a best practice. Because I know it's something that Dr. Moore has said that you either have started or are doing or saying that I'm on the right track. Okay. And so many of you are on the right track because that's the track where we're growing spiritually, we're being creative, we're being collaborative, we're being innovative, and these are some sustainable resources. It's sustainable for you to go to a monthly meeting, and to prune your calendar for you to be able to be in places that can bear fruit, fruit for the community that could bear some practical strategies on how to help mobilize those types of resources and those types of opportunities in building those partnerships. One of the things that I want to say is, like in my local church here in Dallas, it's important. We are located in the Arts District, one of the largest
Mm.
continuous arts district in the nation, downtown Dallas. And Dallas's Arts District is world renowned for, a number of different things. And so our church has leaned into being the soul of the Arts District. And so we are directly across the street from a high school for performing and visual arts. So we've leaned into, how to be able to be creative with those young people. And it has inspired such creativity to the point to where on instead of doing a Good Friday, a 7 last words, that is a traditional type thing, we do this thing that call it's a whole vibe.
Mm,
and it's the seven last word through creative, artistic expressions. So
mm.
whether that's through mimes, whether it's through singing or dance or art, so we've leaned into that whole idea. I want some of you all to drop some of your other ideas, some of the other things that you're doing, questions that you may have. Some of you have some really solid ministries for second chance individuals, persons who maybe, you have a ministry that's focused on prison reentry or, mass incarceration. Those are types of things that can really impact the community as well. Here's a
That's right.
question. You defined yourself as a coaching pastor. Is this how you describe yourself or an emerging category of leadership?
Mm. This is great. It's on my business card, coaching pastor. It's intentional to let the congregation know, my congregates know, I am here for a purpose. I am not here to provide you with all the answers. I'm here to ask questions. And this is a unique appointment in that Bishop Fairley has asked me to commit to serve for 2 years. So some would describe it as an interim, but it's more than that because we are, as Josh Hayden would say, we're remissioning, different from revitalizing. Revitalizing, you do what you used to do. Remissioning is that you find new purpose according to that's in alignment with the Gospels and discipleship. So the question is, we can talk about how to disciple our congregants, and we can talk about how do we disciple the 100 children who are at our daycare. The daycare center is leasing from us. How are we discipling them?
Well, Dr. Moore, you have just said a word that you're going to have to jump back into. And I don't know if you all caught that, all of these shifters that's, in the chat. Remissioning, not revitalizing. Remissioning, finding new purpose. Talk a little about what would the process be for a congregation to remission?
Prayer
Hmm.
is first. And then it has really helped to have the backing of my wonderful district superintendent, the Reverend Telly Lynette Gatson. She is in our corner and she's on my side. So when we need something, we reach out to her and the Congregational Development Office in the conference. The bishop has also been quite supportive. He came and visited the church a month ago. It's important that we know that because this is such risky business. I mean, I can't tell you how we're going to pay the bills 2 months from now. I can't tell you. It's not
Hmm.
in the bank account right now. And I know that God is able. So
Yeah.
we pray. And we continue. The thing about knowing that you're only going to be somewhere for a limited time really helps to put the pressure button on.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be here for 13 years. And my goal is not to, create 14 Bible studies and grow the church to 600 members. That's not my assignment. My assignment is to engage the community, connect the needs of the community with the assets of the church, and see where we land. It is miraculous that we had a statewide nonprofit and the South Carolina Department of Social Services in our building taking a tour when the 20 nonprofits in Sumter had been doing this legwork 2 years prior to my arrival. And they kept asking, where can we house a family resource center? Where can we house a family resource center? They didn't know the status of Aldersgate. So what I say is open your mouth, yap, 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 yap. I'm as
Hmm.
serious as I can be
Hmm.
and keep telling the story. People are listening.
In other words, you learned how to leverage the assets of the church, how to build those
Yes.
partnerships, how to implement them as sustainable resources to equip the congregation to better serve the community. And so the question for those of you in the chat is, have you done an asset structure? What are the assets in your church? Have you done anything that could be able to inventory your assets? so that when you're out in the community, then hey, we're looking for X, Y, and Z, and you already know that that's an asset that you have in the church, that you have that space, or you have the ability to be able to offer something to the community to create real and authentic partnerships. So
And
it's very important.
some of those assets are right there in the church. I have to tell this story. So when I got to Aldersgate, they didn't have a treasurer.
Mm, mm.
And 4 or 5 months in, one of our newer members, she had been attending the church for over a year, and she and her husband finally joined. And we were in the workroom one day, and she just said casually, she said, I said, well, we need to make sure, the finances are right. She said, I used to be a banker.
I love it.
No, I didn't know that. She has been elected as our treasurer, and I'm telling you, she's one of the best treasurers I've seen in the local church.
So, Dr. Moore, I want to leave three things. I want to leave three actionable things that that we can let the remaining 35 plus people who are on this call for the next 2 minutes. Give them your top three things of what they can do or what you should walk away to have conversations with your team to to grow in a way where you know your assets, leverage your assets, and build sustainable resources by being creative and innovative. What are the three things you would employ us to do?
I would say one, pray. Pray in your prayer closet. We at Aldersgate, we meet at 9 o'clock every Sunday morning and we pray and we ask God to move. Prayer is essential. The second thing I would say is listen. Listen to your congregants. You're going to still be the pastor. As Sidney Williams suggested to me, he said, you spend 20% of your time with your congregants being a pastoral minister, being pastoral, and spend the other 80% of the time in the community. So think about a 20-80 use of time and space. And the third thing I would say is choose one thing to engage in your community, go all in, and take risks. You go all in by taking risks. So that's all. That's number three.
And for those of you that's in the chat, before you get off this live, I want you all to just drop one thing in the chat that you're going to take a risk on.
Mm.
I want you to think about the things that you have been wanting to do, the partnerships that you've been wanting to connect with, the folk in the community that you've not pruned your calendar to be able to create space for that. Can you just come on, y'all, drop one thing in the chat that you are going to take a risk on, that you've always wanted to do, and go and build those partnerships and those collaborations to do it. Okay, I see you, Miss Jane. Miss Jane Henderson says the greenhouse. When I think about the things that our community needs in a lot of places all over this country, you know, a lot of communities that we serve are in food deserts.
Mm.
A lot of communities that we're served, public education is looking differently.
Mm.
A lot of communities that we serve is we're having oversaturation of incarceration and over policing and things that are impacting everyday life for families, for grandmothers and mothers and fathers. So just take some time and drop your one thing. And I appreciate those that are doing it, but just drop your one thing because that allows you to be held accountable when you leave a session like this so that you would have not just lunched and listened, but that your learning will result in an affirmative, actionable item. We are moving, connecting to the community. I see you. They're jumping in. Reverend Lester Justice. You got the
Yes.
right last name. Connecting to the community. That's a one thing. That is a one thing. You want to hold yourself accountable. You want to, and you could text it to us. And then when you finish, say, hey, you, the person in my team that's going to hold me accountable to that, I'm going to text it to them and say, hey, look, this is what I learned from the Lunch and Learn today. Miss Selena says an open space to women who want to learn about God, who don't go to church. And guess what? That open space may not be in church. That open space could be at the coffee shop. This has been an amazing teaching. I want you all to know that every third Thursday, just mark your calendar, just automatically mark your calendar that there will be more teachings just like this every third Thursday of the month. We will bring to you an innovative lunch and learn where you can grab and glean practical steps on how to improve your ministry and your connection in the things that you are doing. So let's give a round of applause to Dr. Moore for her time with us today. Thank you so, so, so very much. We appreciate everything that you're doing. I love that they're continuing to do the things in the chat. We want to make sure that you know that that we're praying for you. We're praying for your ministry, and as you coach the congregation, community, and others, we want to continue to be in partnership with you. And I believe that you're a coach with us with SBC 21.
I am.
So if you all or your conference or your connection, if you are interested in coaching with SBC 21, then just reach out to us, and who knows, you may be connected to be a coach with Dr. Moore. So if you're in need of coaching services or any other services to help strengthen your church or your organization, just reach out to us, and we're so grateful for that. Thank you so much for the great information and the nuggets, Dr. Moore. And that is it, says all the clock on the wall. So we will see you the next time, and you all be blessed and have an amazing, amazing Thursday.